Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Entitled Aunt expects us to give her our property. After that, Goblin breaks my stuff, Karen refuses to pay. And after that, Entitled Aunt makes demands in our home after she left my mom in the gutter. Now if we can hit 1,000 likes on this video, Karen is getting locked up for 6 months. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And huge shout out to Ronald Morris, our newest official channel member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as an official channel member today and I'll give you a special shout out in our next video. Entitled Aunt expects us to give her our property. Cast. We've got my mom. We've got Entitled Aunt. We've got my jerk cousins, they'll come in later, and we've got me. So there's a little bit of backstory before we get into this. Entitled Aunt has 2 kids, Cousin 1 who's around 10 and Cousin 2 who is 6. These kids are the biggest brats ever. Entitled Aunt just lets them do whatever they want. They're also homeschooled and their curriculum consists of building sheds and gardening. They aren't very literate. Because they've been homeschooled practically all their life, they haven't had much opportunity to be around other kids, as Entitled Aunt is extremely overprotective. She also comes sobbing to us after almost every time she gets fired from her job to ask us for increasingly large sums of money, which she spends on expensive things. They seem to like my brother best, so whenever they come over or we go over to their house, they always seem to want to play with him. Cousin 1 and Cousin 2 also have no concept of privacy and like to barge into my siblings' rooms just because, which has led to some pretty uncomfortable encounters. Don't really feel like I should delve into this on this post. They also have a dog, which they keep in their extremely small backyard, and it's not trained. The story. Entitled Aunt calls up my mother a few weeks ago. They call back and forth about once a week. Entitled Aunt was thinking of moving because she has realized her house is too small for her 2 kids, her husband, and an overactive dog that they keep locked up in the kitchen when they have guests. At the time, we were also thinking of moving, so Entitled Aunt had the great idea of suggesting that we sever our property so that she can live with us. We have about 4 acres of property, not including a strip of forest that we own. My mother, being a bit of a pushover, thinks that it's a good idea. But our grandparents, who I'd prefer live with us, also wanted to at the time. And while our property is large, it's not large enough for everyone. My mother brings up that fact, and then Entitled Aunt changes her idea from severing our property to building an extension on our house so that we can live in the same house. And not only does she want to build an extension on our house, she wants us to pay for it. Plumbing, utilities, electrical, everything. And the house that they want isn't exactly small. I think my dad managed to talk some sense into my mother about how crazy the idea was, and my mother seemed to agree. So when Entitled Aunt comes over the next week, my mother and Entitled Aunt have the following conversation. Entitled Aunt: So, have you thought about what we talked about last week? Mom: Yes. And I don't think it's a good idea for us to sever our property and pay for your house. But why not? Your kids love Cousin 1 and Cousin 2, and they'd love to live with them. Mom: We don't have the money to build 2 more extra houses on our property, Entitled Aunt, especially with how large you want yours to be. At that point, Cousin 1 and Cousin 2 chimed in with how much they loved us and wanted to live with us, which Entitled Aunt clearly put them up to. Thankfully, my mother managed to stand her ground on our decision. Mom: Entitled Aunt, you cannot live with us. If you want a bigger house, just move. But we can't. My husband and I don't work, and my kids are getting taught by me. This also isn't the first time that Entitled Aunt and my uncle haven't had jobs. They refuse to send their kids to school, which makes working difficult, and they end up getting fired and trying to get money from my family. And my mother normally gives it out. I think at that point, she had gotten fed up with Entitled Aunt and had asked them politely to leave, which resulted in Entitled Aunt calling my mom a bunch of names and then leaving with her sobbing and screaming kids in tow. We haven't seen them since, and my mother avoids her at all family gatherings. Edit. To further expand on what I mean by not very literate, I mean that they can read, just not at the level that they should be reading at that age. Would you ever let an entitled family member live with you? I know I sure wouldn't. Goblin breaks my stuff. Karen refuses to pay. Okay, let's start with the situation. My workshop is located in an office building no longer in use. As a result, they opened it up to various smaller companies to work there. I only recently opened the workshop at this location and am still very busy with moving as well as getting to know what everyone does. There are mostly online shops and artists who have a room there. The hallways where I have my office is locked off with an access code. It started on a Sunday. I like working on Sundays because there's nobody in the building. So, music on and start working. What I do in my workshop is working with leather, faux furs and faux leathers. So I have an array of scissors, needles, punches, and pliers that would not be misplaced in a Lovecraft horror scene. Only I need to go to the bathroom, so I closed the door, but I did not lock it. In hindsight, I should have locked it, and from now on I do that. But at the moment, there was no one. We all know each other, so what could have gone wrong? Famous last words. So I come back to the workshop with my door opened. Strange, I had closed the door, right? I discover, much to my surprise, that there was a kid, perhaps 6, in the workshop nosing around. There are a few small issues with it. One comes to my mind when I see the nice shiny metal of my scissors. These scissors are my pride. They are high-strength carbon steel alloy, and I keep them razor sharp, perhaps even sharper. They are perfect for cutting through synthetic fabrics, different leathers, and to my own frustration, human skin if you don't pay attention. We are talking about a 28 centimeter, 11 freedom inches, long blade, hollow ground, and polished. So I got a bit nervous when I saw the kid with that tool. I also didn't want them to get scared and drop the scissors. They do not act well when dropped. Now, there were no parents with the kid at that moment, so I approached them to ask what they were doing here, and more importantly, for my scissors back. No luck in getting my quite expensive scissors back, so I got a bit sterner. I do not want to grab for the scissors, as that would be dangerous for us. Now, when I talk stern, I do raise my voice a bit, and it does carry. So finally, the mother made an appearance. Apparently, learning after the fact, she was visiting a therapist with her kid. Figures. At first, I was quite nice. I asked the mother for my scissors back and to remove her kid from my workshop. The mother also did not have luck getting my scissors back, and her kid now became frustrated that 2 people were asking for her newfound toy back. Following conversation translated from Dutch, entitled Mom. Sure, there is no harm in letting her play with it a bit longer. Me. Ma'am, I have work to do, and those scissors are quite dangerous. There's a reason I have that on the wall. And I pointed to a large, well-equipped industry first aid kit. Then why is she here? Me. Beats me, but I do have to ask you to leave. This is no place for her. My following error was to take a step to entitled kid with my hand open and making a gesture for the scissors. She gave a cry and threw the scissors at the ground. It dropped on its tip and did me a kind job of breaking apart. It is said that a Dutch guy can swear for 2 minutes long, uninterrupted, without repeating themselves, and at that moment, I had to keep myself from not teaching the kid a whole new vocabulary of words that would make the devil ask if you can keep it civilized. It's not their fault. It hardly ever is at that age. I took the scissors and the tip carefully from the ground. It was about a centimeter long, and there was no way I could grind the blade back to repair the damage, so I looked at the mother. This is a problem. Yeah, sorry. Here, have a tenner. This should be enough. Not even close. These scissors cost me about 120 euros a piece. That is 120 euros wholesale price, not retail. I want it replaced, not to make a profit on it. For a moment, I saw her soul leave her body. Well, you shouldn't have left your door open. Technically, she was right. But technically, you should always watch your kid. Me. The door was closed, just not locked. I do ask for some compensation for the breaking of my tool since you are responsible for your kid. A kid who was looking with tears in her eyes to the scissors I was holding. No, You will not get it." I do not know why, but she calmly took some cash from her wallet, threw it at me with the words, "Take your money," and left, roughly pulling on Entitled Kid's arm, who started to cry at this point. The only consolidation was that what she threw at me was a bit more than the cost of new scissors, so technically I made a profit. Do you have any craft work that you do, such as leather work? I'd love to hear about it. Entitled Aunt makes demands in our home after she left my mom in the gutter. This saga involves my mom and her sister, aka Entitled Aunt, and my family. I apologize in advance for the lengthy background, but I needed to give you a sense of how truly entitled this woman is. Background: shortly after my mom and dad had me, they decided to move from California to Florida. They were immigrants to this country and therefore were really poor at this time, and my mom was encouraged by Entitled Aunt to move to Central Florida so that family can be close and it was fairly cheap. Well, things didn't work out as planned because shortly after the move, my mom found out that my dad had been cheating and got the other woman pregnant, and they promptly divorced. But my dad got everything while my mom got sole custody of me and my older bro. Basically, she had no home, car, phone, nothing. The only place she knew was Entitled Aunt's house, which was large due to her husband's fairly successful construction company. And per my mom's words, the following happened. My mom knocked on the door and saw that Entitled Aunt opened it just a slit, looked at her for a solid second, and promptly shut and locked the door. My mom told me she knew what that meant and didn't push it any further other than to just break down and cry as she walked down the road with us. My mom is a strong woman and builds relationships fast and strong, a trait an introvert like me never got. So she begged her boss for a loan, got a cheap car and a phone, and she sent me, being that I was basically still an infant at this point, back to her home country to be raised by my grandma, because she knew she was in no state to take care of a baby, but at least she can take care of a toddler, big bro. And she worked her butt off to afford an apartment, food, and daycare, with her goal being to eventually bring me back home. It was only after she met my future stepfather that she was finally able to do that. The story, about 15 years later due to the recession of '08, Entitled Aunt's husband's business flopped and they lost their home and all their savings and were hotel surfing for a few years until my parents, who were doing a lot better now, offered a welcome hand for them to stay with us since my mom is a bigger person than I'll ever be. When she arrived with her family, Entitled Aunt immediately demanded 2 rooms be allocated to her and the use of one of my parents' cars, and my mom told her it was the couches or nothing, and that shut her up real quick. So every day I came home from school, I had to walk past them bumming on the couches, and my cousins weren't exactly pleasant to be around either. They always gave a snobbish, "I'm better than you" vibe, and generally ignored you to text on their phones, and Entitled Aunt avoided and never spoke to me, while her husband was out for weeks doing odd jobs. They didn't do anything around the house, but my parents didn't care, as long as they didn't make a mess, and my mom was more than happy to share food, since at least Entitled Aunt knew how to make cuisine from their home country. The breaking point came after week 2, though, when my mom had prepared food for a family party and had it on the counters, ready to be transferred before she had to head out to do her nails. When she came back, everything was gone. This was enough food to feed like 20 people, and they somehow managed to clean out more than half of it, and my mom was mad. I remember hearing them yelling and arguing. I was told later of what was said, that Entitled Aunt was complaining about our crab hospitality, and that if we had food, then we needed to share it, that they were being forced to sleep on couches while we kept our rooms, etc. And when my mom pointed out what she did all those years back, Entitled Aunt retorted that she didn't want bums in her home, and with that, Entitled Aunt was kicked out. Entitled Aunt apparently called my grandma to rant and complain. Now Entitled Aunt only ever calls my grandma to beg for money and never spoke to her otherwise, and my mom is considered the golden child in the family and calls her mom daily. So immediately, grandma shut her down and told her she deserves what happened and that she feels sorry for the kids, but now that they're teenagers, they're grown enough that she, grandma, doesn't need to be sending Entitled Aunt money, especially when Entitled Aunt is fully capable of working. Entitled Aunt apparently moved into Uncle's, who's too nice of a guy, house and bummed on their couches for 4 to 6 months before she was kicked out by my aunt after my mom told her over casual chat what Entitled Aunt did to Uncle shortly after he immigrated to the US. Last thing my mom ever did for Entitled Aunt was get her a housekeeping job that she quit after 2 days because it was too hard. The last thing I heard of them is that they're still hotel surfing with my now adult cousins and Entitled Aunt not working and the husband still trying to support them. You are not a customer here. A new breed of Karen. Before I get into it, and just to add a bit of background, I have been a manager in my line of work for over a decade now, and we deal with rude people all the time. I have zero patience for rude people, and I give it back exactly how it's given to me. At my work, I do the post office run each morning, dropping and collecting mail from our P.O. box. Great chance to get out of the office and create new, long ways back to work. Today, we had a parcel pickup slip in there. Nothing unusual with that. We get them all the time. So I collect the parcel and take it back to work with the other mail. When I get back to my desk, I notice that the parcel is from Amazon, addressed to someone who doesn't work here but has our P.O. box details. There's also a contact number for her on the parcel sticker. So, being the kind, caring gentleman that I am, I give her a call. It goes to her voicemail, so I leave a detailed message about the situation and how to contact me. Moments later, I get a call back on my desk phone. Me. Good afternoon, company. This is OP. Her. I had a missed call from this number, but I have no idea why you would be calling me because I'm not interested in anything you are selling. Me. Oh no, that's okay. I don't want to sell you anything. We had a parcel in our P.O. box addressed to you. Did you want to come to our office to pick it up? Her. Why do you have a key to my P.O. box? Me. Well, actually, it's our P.O. box. We have had the same one for 3 years now. So she explodes. No, it's my P.O. box and that's illegal. Why do you have a key to my P.O. box? I want to speak to your manager. Me. Okay, go for it. I'm the manager. Her. Well, why do you have access to my mail? She yells this whole conversation, but I got sick of writing in caps. Me. I don't. I have access to my mailbox. I go every day and have never seen your mail in my box before. So explain to me why you think you have access to mine. You do realize that I am from this company, right? Her, in a moment of unexpected clarity from her. Well, my P.O. box is, explains the full address, which is almost our address as we have 2 post offices nearby, but hers needs the suburb name, then East added to it. Easy. Me. Oh, I understand now. Sorry. Well, yeah, looks like Amazon or Australia Post hasn't added that detail to the label sticker, so it's come to the main post office. Whoops. Trying to calm her down a bit. Her. Well, when I made the order, I put my details in as I always do. That's how I have them saved on my Amazon profile too. So why did it get sent to you? Me. Getting sick of going back and forth with something I have absolutely no time to deal with. How would I know, mate? I don't work for Amazon or the post office. I literally picked up our P.O. box mail and your parcel was with it. I didn't have to call, but I did. I have nothing to do with your mail or your order details, as I've said multiple times now. I'm from my company. Her. Well, this needs to be escalated, and you will need to drop that parcel at my house ASAP, because it's urgent. Me. At this point, I thought my nose started bleeding from inner rage. What the heck? What's not being understood here? Well then, take my parcel back to the post office and tell them about the error. Me. I have absolutely no authority to take a parcel back and have them amend the address. Nope, not gonna happen. You need to come and get it from me, or I can take it back and they will return it to Amazon. I probably could have done more, but really, forget her. This is urgent medicine I need. You buy urgent medicine from Amazon, and they mark it as beauty products on the customs declaration? Bit odd. That's none of your business. Yeah, exactly. None of this should be my business. Now come and get your parcel and stop blowing up at me. Completely unacceptable behavior. I want to lodge a complaint. You're not a customer of ours. You have no grounds to complain. I'm trying to help you. Where is your office? I will come right now, and you better have some answers for me. Beautiful. Here it is. Can't wait to catch up. See you then." She hangs up. I imagine she has slammed down her phone and absolutely obliterated it because of how angry she was. Her hands shaking from rage, she cleans the froth from the insides of her mouth, grabs her handbag, makes sure she's carrying her Karen ID, and heads to her new 4-wheel drive that she uses for only city travel. Myself and the other office staff share a great laugh over it, and we are currently pacing the room waiting for her to get here. Everyone wants to witness this pure stupidity firsthand. That call was now 3 hours ago, still not here. Entitled parents at a bookstore ruin books because their kid wanted one. So a few years ago, I used to work at the headquarters of the biggest bookstore chain in my country. I worked in the shipping department, and one of my jobs was to take the new books that arrived, weigh them, note the number of pages down, and add these to the database and the website for people to order. Now, the company headquarters, where the shipping department was, were right above the main bookstore of the chain. That meant that every day I had to go downstairs with 2 colleagues, collect the new arrivals, and take them upstairs. So one day, I went to the first floor, where the kids' books section is, to pick up the books I had to weigh that day. I had to collect about 7 books, so I decided to carry them all at once. I stacked these books, and then I started carrying them. Mind you, these books were heavy as heck, but I really wanted to be done with that instead of having to climb 4 flights of stairs twice. Enter Entitled Kid. One of the books I happened to be carrying was a newly arrived kid's book, and unfortunately, it was pretty visible due to the colors on the side, etc. The moment the kid spots the book I'm carrying, it starts screaming, "Mom, Dad, there it is, there it is." I didn't pay much attention, and I moved towards the stairs. Then I hear the entitled dad say, "Go ahead, take it." I thought he meant to go and get the book from the shelves. It has just been placed to, so I turned my back and kept walking. Then suddenly I hear a voice shouting, "Excuse me?" pretty loud. I turned around, and the entitled mom was standing there looking at me. Before I could say anything, she goes, "How dare you turn your back to my son?" Me, I don't understand. "You work here, and that's how you treat customers that want to buy your products?" Me, "Ma'am, I don't work in this department. If you're looking for a specific book, you can ask the people that work here." "Well, your tag says you work here." "The tag says I work in this company, not in this specific department. Please let me do my job." Entitled dad, "How dare you talk to us like that? Now hand over this book. My son needs it." Now mind you, this book was the 4th of the stack, so I had to leave the heavy stack somewhere, give them the book, and then lift it again. Also, I had started to feel the strain on my arms, and I just wanted to go upstairs and finish my job. Me, "Well, unfortunately, I cannot give you this specific book, but they just arrived, and if you go to the shelves back there, you'll find more copies of it." Entitled kid, "But I want this one." "You heard my son. Now give me this book you're holding, or I'll call your manager." Me, "Miss, I can't do that." Then suddenly the kid comes up to me and tries to reach for the book and grab it. I try to move away, but it was too late. The kid, instead of grabbing the book, which was impossible because it had 3 books on top of it, drops the whole stack and they fall down. Now, most of the books were ruined. Not completely ruined, but bent and a couple of torn pages. We obviously cannot sell books like that, so the damage was done. Entitled dad, "Well, you see what you did? You almost injured my kid." I grabbed the book from the floor. It had a bent cover and handed it to the kid. Me, "Happy now?" Entitled mom, "Do you expect me to pay for this ruined book? It's your fault, and you're a dangerous man. You almost hurt him." At that moment, my manager, who was one of the best people I have ever met and really liked me a lot, comes over. The entitled mom and entitled dad are screaming at him to get me fired for causing harm to their beloved brat, who was just silently browsing other shelves as if nothing had happened, and that I had to pay for the book personally. Yeah, not company money, but for the book price to be withheld from my salary. Then my manager says, "We have CCTV. Please wait right here so we can check your accusations because they are serious." The moment he said that, all colors left entitled mom's face. She started saying the typical, "You don't need to, it's not necessary," but nothing came out of it. Now the security room is directly upstairs. As I said, it was the headquarters of the entire company, so the process only took about half an hour. I had to remain downstairs with the entitled family who gave me glaring looks all that time. In the end, they had to pay the full price for all the books they ruined, which was a lot, mind you, and then they had to take them with them. In the end though, the entitled kid took the book he wanted. And shoutouts to our Read Generals of the day, the Red Diamond, the Epic's Chest, and Brittany. Become tomorrow's Read Generals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.